drive through rain, hail, everything. So yes, Ryan, I haven't forgotten that. Yeah. So there were many like that, but I've been fortunate. I've been fortunate that I could find something to do that I was actually interested in. It's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy because there is also the fact that when you join something out of passion, people talk about passion all the time. People tell you, oh, you need to be passionate about this, and you need to be, you shouldn't treat it as work, etc. But fact of the matter is, when you do it as work, there is also the danger of the passion fizzling out a little bit because eventually it becomes work, right?
Yeah.
So keeping it alive is not always the easiest because there are challenges. Sometimes you come back from a drive and you go straight to the office to file the story because the issue has to go to print. I mean, that's not a deadline you can screw around with. It's very stressful. You spend a week.
Yeah.
Your family worries about you because 10,000 kilometers in 10 days or 28 states in 28 days means you are on the road for a long durations of time. We all know how Indian roads are. So people become stressed out. Families take the hit. So it's not, goats on the road, you fight fatigue. So it's not all peaches and rose, but it's extremely rewarding when you have done it, when you've finished it. And you have these wonderful stories. I mean, some of the stuff we've done on the road is just absolutely fantastic. I remember this was 2009. Fiat was doing this drive called Fiat Diesel Drives India. And each magazine, I was with Auto Build at the time, each magazine was given a budget by Fiat and told that you create your own route and you finish that route and write about it in the magazine and so on and so forth. So we took, because we were based out of Delhi at that time, we obviously took to the Himalayas. This was September, mind you. And at one point, we reached one point somewhere. It was a mad place. There was just this stream and on one side in the mountain face, and there was a steep drop on the other, no traffic, when our photographer decided that the cars were too dirty. They had to be washed, otherwise he wouldn't photograph them. So we all got off and we washed the car in that freezing stream with plastic bottles. And I to my knowledge, I think it was one of the most memorable car washes I have done in my life. And
what was the car?
It's the kind of it was there were 5 cars. In fact, there was a Fiat 500, there was a Fiat Punto, there was a Fiat Palio, a Sienna, a Linea, and a backup Punto. So we washed 4 of those because we didn't want to wash the backup car, which had no role to play other than carrying the spares and the mechanic. So we washed 4 of those using those bottles. It took us, I think, about 3 hours or so to wash them down and photograph them. But it was absolutely, it's a wonderful story when you think about it. Yeah. Washing cars on a mountaintop in the mountain stream with a bunch of people joking, laughing, having a good laugh, crisp mountain air. It's fantastic.
Yeah, Fiat Punto being my second car. I loved that. Loved driving that. I had to sell it off. And
most Fiats are they breed loyalty to the people who got to drive them or own them. I remember seeing a comment by, I think, Anando, talking about the Quid and the fact that I'm tall. But to be honest, whoever asked that question, I didn't feel very cramped in the Quid. The Quid's cabin is actually quite spacious. It's far more spacious than you'd expect it to be. And even when I did a similar drive from the Indo-Pak border to the Indo-Bangladesh border in a Maruti Alto K10, I was not cramped. These cars are more spacious than you'd expect them to be.
Yeah, you'd sacrifice the back seat, draw your seat all the way back. Yeah, probably the cabin would be as big as a supercar's cabin.
That would be that would be stretching it, but it's not so cramped that you can't stay in it for some duration. Sure, you take shorter, you do shorter stints because you obviously it won't be as big or as spacious as say a big SUV or a big sedan, but it's not so uncomfortable that you can't last at all. So yeah, that's something.
The only time I guess I've driven an Alto is while learning to drive. I
used to own one actually.
An Alto, learning to drive. Have you driven a Maruti 800, the first entrant? Was it Maruti 800? Maruti 200 was the first entrant for Maruti. Remember?
Of course I have. In fact, the absolute flat one, the very first generation one, because my uncle used to own one, and he's never married. He's always had a bit of a soft spot for me. The owner of the Austin that we were talking about. So I used to get around to driving that around a little bit. But yeah, I've driven a Maruti 800. In fact, I enjoy these little city cars. I quite enjoy them. They have their own charm. I mean, they obviously aren't as exciting as some of the other ones, like supercar, for instance. But yeah, they have their charm.
Wow, you've been through the entire spectrum of four wheels.
I've been lucky.
Yeah. Now let's shift gears a little bit. How about music while you're driving? What's your favorite playlist like?
Completely bonkers. For the longest time ever, it used to be mostly classic rock. And then I started listening to some of the stuff that the younger generation were listening to, like my daughter, some of my colleagues. And I realized that while earlier I had been scoffing at them for being absolute rot, like all old men do, some of the music is actually rather nice. So now my playlist is a healthy mix, depends on the mood. What I can't stand is EDM. I can't stand death metal. Those I cannot take. But I also listen to a lot of Latin these days because because I learned Latin dancing. So
yeah. Talk about that. That's a fun stint. I saw bits of that.
What, the Latin dancing?
Yeah, Latin dancing.
So the Latin dancing is actually quite funny the way it happened. Hi, Rohit. It's actually quite funny the way it happened because I've always been fascinated by Latin dance, but never had the opportunity to learn it. When I met my wife, then girlfriend, I had no idea that she also had an interest in it. We discovered that later, but we never got around to really learning how to dance. And last year we thought that we are becoming like exactly like the boring couple next door. So we decided to do something a little offbeat, as it were. And she actually got us enrolled in a Latin dance school in Pune for my 38th birthday. And that's how it started off. And I found that I absolutely love it. So, and the music kind of grows on you. I still can't make head or tail of what the singer is saying, but the music grows on you. There's a rhythm to it, and it's quite interesting. Thank you, Shorish. Thank you. Very kind.
Totally. Latin again has a sense of primal, one of those primal emotions. I feel in
it
Latin
does.
music.
It does.
And how's life been in the quarantine? Been cooking quite frequently, I've seen.
Well, the cooking is actually shared. I share more pictures of what stuff the family is cooking than what I cook per se. But yeah, I do cook. I do cook once in a while. See, quarantine for me has been a bit of a mixed bag. I see a lot of people saying that, I've got all the time in the world and I'm going to read, I'm going to binge watch. I honestly didn't get much of that. It's been work from home full time, five days a week, Saturdays, Sundays, and now you can't even tell the difference, bloody, when Friday ends and when Saturday begins. So
that's what caused the error on the banner. You see.
So I'm completely forgiven. I didn't even notice it. And school kids, all of that put together, I haven't really had the luxury of the kind of time that some of the others have had. Have been sleeping in a little bit more than I normally would. My day begins frightfully early. I don't get to sleep in as much as I do these days. Yeah, the lockdown actually, I'm what I am enjoying is the fact that, where I'm sitting and working, I just look up and I can see my family. I can see the kids running around. So that's very comforting. The fact that I don't have to spend an hour on the road just to get to work or come back from work. If work ends at, yeah, exactly. If work ends at 6:30, you shut the laptop, 6:31, you're home. That is something. That is something very enjoyable. But it's also been a hit and a miss because the quarantine, this whole work from home situation, it has somewhere become, because the lines have blurred between work and home, and because India is the way it is, it has become a little bit more like work more from home rather than work from home. So you end up getting calls at 8:30 in the night saying, "Can you do this? Can you do that?" So those lines, the blurring of those lines is not something I take kindly to.
Yeah, there's this complete love of